Hello Fab fans, my name's Josh and welcome to the first full episode of the channel where we'll be turning this into that. You're not going to want to miss the end. I'm going to explain how one of you lucky people could be in the chance to win this very seat. Yeah, buddy! Let's run the tape. That's right, we're starting off strong with the first full episode and our first monthly giveaway, all in one hit. But we'll come back to that at the end. Before we get to that, we've got a seat to make. Let's go. And this is where we start. This particular design of seat has 3 sections to work on. The first is what I call the main sheet, which includes the back and sides and acts as the main backbone to the whole assembly. The second is the base, which will be shaped to be as comfortable as possible. And the third is the floor, mating everything together and giving the seat several points to be mounted from. Before we get to shaping these, we need to do a bit of sprucing up. All the parts you see here are being laser cut and as a result do tend to have a small amount of residue on the surfaces. This is usually from how the material is stored, but also from the vacuum lifts used in the process. I've been through quite a few different cleaners in my time. The best I've found so far has to be IPA or isopropyl alcohol. No odour, quickly evaporates and dissolves most of the pollutants found here. Now that everything is nice and clean, it's time to get marking up. With the amount of shaping involved to make these parts together, we need quite an accurate guide for most of the tooling involved. We start by marking the centre of the seat and then move outward for each detail. You might notice there are no drawings to follow here. Luckily, I've had the measurements of this style of seat lodged in my brain for the past 5 years, and marking these up is pretty much muscle memory these days. Now that we have the main sheet marked up, on to the first lot of shaping. First thing we need to do, get this pesky bench out of the way. Now we have a clear, open space, we can get at the English wheel. This is just about as simple an operation as can be done on this tool, but boy does it do it well. Using both the anvil and main wheel to create a bead in the back of the seat may seem a bit odd if you know this tool, but the design of this seat utilises it beautifully. Now that we have the first shapes wheeled in, it's time to get this seat rolling. Many moons ago, all of the shaping seen here would have been done on the English wheel. After a complete overhaul of my design, we now roll the majority of the seat shape. This ensures a constant quality across the full range of seat designs, and quite frankly, saves a hell of a lot of time. Here you can see the main shape of the seat coming together. This makes a simple, flimsy piece of aluminium sheet into the main backbone of the construction. Now that the main sheet is rolled, we can move on to the base. This involves 3 separate operations. The first forms the very front of the seat base, creating a smooth, rounded front section, which is key in the seat's aesthetic character. Next, we have the bolster. A key part in the overall comfort of the seat, this provides a raised area at the front of the base which keeps the user from sliding forwards in more vigorous driving situations. Finally, we have the rear dip and the main contact point for the entire seat. This helps keep the user securely seated and also drops the overall seated height, a major benefit to a lot of previous customers. With the first 2 panels rolled, it's time to get the slip rolls out of the way and move on to the bead former. This tool uses two dies of varying shapes to form what is known as a bead in sheet metal parts. I'm going to jump out of voiceover mode quickly so I can stress just how hard this next part of the job is. So, apologies if I make this look easy. Yes, this is quite easily the most important and physically demanding part of the job. Creating a rolled edge around the entire panel that not only gives a smooth, safe edge, but is also one of the main sources of strength for the rear of the seat. This detail is formed in 3 stages. As the material has to be stretched to create this shape, we have to do this gently to avoid the part cracking along the bead line. The first stage forms the edge into a 90-degree lip and sets the main outline for the detail. Next, we'll put the part back through the former and get the lip close to 180 degrees. With the material having to stretch to form this part, we do end up with some buckling around the corners. This can only mean one thing. Tell them what the time is, Stanley.
Stop! Hammer time!
Yes, my favourite part of the day. It's time to hammer the edges. This could be how we close the entire edge, but for the sake of my forearms and my neighbour's hearing, we only need to shrink any buckles that have formed along the edge. We then move to the final beading, where we close the lip between 2 different dies. This creates the final shape of the edging, leaving a full radius on the outside of the seat and a smooth flat on the inside. Now that we have the first 2 sheets shaped and beaded, it's time to move on to the floor. With this, we could go back to the bead former for the shaping, but I have a much quicker way. I made this pressing tool a couple of years ago and it's been a godsend for this job. Pressing the section in one hit has reduced the lead time by around 30 minutes a seat, and creates the exact same part every time. Simple as that. With the main shaping of all 3 sheets now complete, it's time to move on to the finer details, the first of these being the belt slots. These slots allow for belting to be placed through the seat sides and are a necessity for achieving the correct belt angle. Without these, the belts would lie on the seat edge, leading to a slack section in the belting. This pressing tool creates an inlay for the slot and also helps stiffen up the side of the seat. After switching the tool in to press the opposite slot, we can move on to the seat mounting points. Here we have 4 points located in the floor of the seat. With these being located under the base plate, it can be quite difficult to add a nut to the bolt. Instead, we press in a shape that allows the bolt to achieve tension, but more on that later. Now we're done on the shop press, it's time to move to the seat press. This is another piece of tooling I've made myself just for the seats. This tool provides a softer press and is perfect for swaging all of the holes seen in these panels. We start off with the 40mm swage. These holes are mainly for aesthetics, but also provide some stiffening for the panels. With this being a bomber seat, you can't not include these. Now, onto the 25mm swage. And that's all the finer details pressed and completed. Time to get all of these parts assembled. The first job on the list, add the inserts for the mounting points. Here we use riv nuts to provide a captive nut for the seat to be bolted down to. With this type of fixing and the pressing previously added, a clever thing happens. The pressing allows the material to add tension to the bolt, but not exceed its elasticity. These also act as a fixing point for the table jig, making it much easier to assemble the two parts accurately. Now that we have the floor fixed to the table, it's that beautiful time again. Although the press does make a nice job of shaping the floor, the edges are never exactly right, so require a bit of finesse to get them to the 90 degrees. We also have to allow for the rake of the seat in this section, which is the angle at which the back of the seat sits when fixed. And it's time to mount these parts together. With the floor shaped, fitting the main sheet into this section is a breeze. Starting off with finding the centre of the panel via our previous markings, we then add the first rivet to the centre to fix the panel in position. Don't forget to remove those nasty burrs, as these can decrease the holding strength of the rivet. With the first hole in place, we can now fix the panel in position. Today's top tip. If you have a job where you're wrapping one part around another, but you have an open end, always start in the centre. That way when you're done, both ends will be equal. And now it's time to get the main sheet set in place. With the sheets now drilled and prepped, let's get riveting. So, this is part of the episode I wasn't fully expecting to have to do, but we're going to have to cut the day there. A seat like this would normally take me about 2 or 3 hours. We're currently on hour 7 of this build. Just how much time filming adds, it's crazy. So we're going to get back on this tomorrow, get the base in, get it tacked up, get it welded up, and we'll see how it goes. On to day 2 of this build, and we're going to jump straight into the final assembly stages of the seat and get yesterday's work ready for welding. As you may know, aluminium welding and dirt don't get on so well, so it's back to the IPA for a full clean down. The swaging at the front of the base tends to leave a bit of a dip, so a quick over the leg straighten up is required. Now that the base is clean and straight, it's time to get it positioned in the assembly. With all this material only being 1.5mm thick, you need to clamp the base in place so it won't try and move around whilst being tacked. Now that everything is positioned and clamped in place, it's time to get onto the TIG. Here, the base is being tacked into place to the main sheet. With the heat involved in fully welding this part, we need to do this to ensure the base won't buckle or move out of position. With the base now tacked up, we can move on to welding up the first joint. This joins the floor to the base and is the final tie for all 3 sections of the seat. And there we have the first fully welded joint. While we let this cool down, I just thought I'd jump in and say I'm not going to go into too much detail on all this, the welding section. This video would probably be about 400 hours long if I did. If you guys do see anything specific that you'd like noting or would like me to explain, just let me know in the comments. I'll see what I can do. And we're on to the final section of welding for this job, but we'll give this a quick cleanup before getting into it. Voila, one fully welded bomber seat. But we're not quite finished. Time to clean up the base ends and, with the amount of welding involved on these, remove any warping from the sides. Now that's more like it. So, there we have it. One bomber seat made and done. Thanks for watching. Hold on Josh, you're forgetting something. Oh yeah, this is our first monthly giveaway. We need to give this to someone. All you guys will have to do to be in the chance of winning this seat is like the video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and comment with
"Do it, Quill! I can take it."
And you'll be added to February's giveaway draw. And that's it for this week's episode. Next week will be our last planned episode, where I'll be giving you a fully guided trip around the workshop, and we'll be ending with our first this or that episode choices, so make sure you don't miss it. Thanks for watching and see you next time.